we're going to revisit a couple of pieces, and we're going to do this often. The more we hear things, the more we're going to remember. And we're going to do some comparing and contrasting. So let's take a look at two of our important early Renaissance painters, Duccio and Giotto. And we're going to look at a scene that they both painted. And we'll do this often because early in the Renaissance, all throughout the Renaissance, throughout the Reformation even, we see a lot of subject matter that's similar. We see the Madonna and Child, we see the Last Supper a lot. In this case, we see the Betrayal of Jesus, or the Kiss as it's called with Giotto's piece. So let's revisit the Maestá with Duccio. This is a view if you were in Siena and you actually were seeing it. It's in a museum that is housing Pietro Lorenzetti's piece as well, and the Maestà, the front and the back, and part of the predella. This gives you an idea of the size of it. Notice that the figure in the front sitting in the foreground there is actually my niece, so that gives you an idea of a human scale reference. Mary is large, as we've already talked about. She's dominating the entire scene. The lighting is dim because UV or sunlight definitely would alter the paint colors and ruin the painting. So they keep lighting down and no flash is allowed. So this is the back, and this is the image in your book, what it would look like if they were photographing the piece under studio lighting. So to give you an idea, if you're in a space and you are looking at this piece, you're not necessarily going to see it the way you would in your book. So I'm trying to give you some content perspective of what this piece might look like if you're actually there. And this is shot at eye level. So I'm actually eye level with the Betrayal of Jesus right here that you can see underneath the crucifixion. It is one of the smaller panels, but it is right in the center. Notice our colors, they're very warm, and it's very dark. Here's another close-up view. So remembering where Giotto's piece is, we are not on a movable piece like the Maestà is on a movable panel that would have been taken through Siena, but we are inside a chapel filled with this blue lapis lazuli. So these registers are much bigger, and they aren't quite as small and have a lot more space to breathe. And this is the piece that we're going to look at by Giotto, the Kiss of Judas. Let's take a look at these side by side and really do some things that I think you can do on your own with any piece of work, especially when you have similar subject matters, and maybe they're contemporary ones that you can practice this on as well. So oftentimes with art, when we talk about comparing and contrasting or looking at a painting, we can talk about a lot of the formal qualities that are here. So we can talk about who is here, what is here. We can talk about the composition. We can talk about the colors. So let's talk about all of that, and that will hopefully bring us to a deeper meaning of these pieces and these paintings. So let's start with Duccio's. We have two groups. Notice the disciples fleeing in that right-hand side, and then the group of Roman soldiers around Jesus, except for Judas, who is giving him a kiss on the cheek, while Jesus' face, he is staring straight forward, and he has a halo, but he has this very icon-like look about him. It's very Byzantine in style, that always has halos, and then notice the feet are very pointy and kind of straight. The figures feel like they're floating a little bit. Another thing that we could point out is that their lances are straight, and then we see the repeating pattern of the trees as well that kind of mimic those lances. And then our landscape. We have quite a bit more landscape in Duccio's than we do in Giotto's. Now let's take a look at the colors and maybe guess at the time of day that it is. It's bright, kind of. It's goldish. It's a very warm color. Maybe it's daytime. So it definitely feels like it is daytime or there's sunlight coming from somewhere. In contrast, let's look at Duccio's. His colors are cooler. He's using blues and greens. Notice the focal point that Giotto draws us right in to the center where our two main figures are. And there are a lot of good reasons for that. One, obviously, is this yellow cloak that is taking over the entire scene. So there's no doubt that Giotto wants us to look right here. There's a couple of other things that he's doing as well. Notice that the eyes of Judas and Jesus are locked together. And Judas is making no doubt. He is throwing his left arm around Jesus' shoulders. So you see that the folds in the robe that are there, in the drapery, you don't even see Christ's body. All you see is this yellow cloak, and then their eyes are locked. The other thing that we notice are those lances. They are all in a diagonal, and they're leading us to the center, to the heads of Jesus and Judas. That also helps to create some motion. Anytime you have lines that are at a diagonal, it feels like it's in movement, versus Duccio's straight up and down lines that feel much more static. So Jesus is at the center of this angry mob, but notice the look on his face. He is gazing right back at Judas. He's not looking at us. He is full of peace. He knows. He's anticipated this moment. He knew when he told Judas to go and do what you'd planned to do, and he walked out into the night. So Giotto is using this night, perhaps, idea to just symbolize the evil and the treachery that is happening here. Another one of Giotto's characteristic moves is that he has zoomed us right into the scene. Notice how pulled back we are in Duccio's piece, but in Giotto's, we have zoomed right into the center of the action here. He's using a lot less landscape than Duccio uses. In Giotto's, he's really perfected the storytelling. We are present in this piece, whereas with Duccio's, we are simply observers.